Okay, here's a story from my childhood, which has a very good, important lesson. So pay attention. When I was a kid, I was probably, seventh grade maybe, and we're playing stickball. I lived in New Jersey, playing stickball. And, it was in the evening, and people don't have much to do. People didn't have much to do in those days. And so there was a couple of people sitting outside watching the game. And it turns out that we're losing the game. I myself was not a good loser. I was really upset, okay? And this Mr. Polaro, one of the neighbors who's sitting there watching the game, calls me over. He says, "Hey, Duff, come here. I got to tell you something." So I come over. Now, you got to understand, Mr. Polaro is off the boat. I mean, he was not born here. He was born in Italy. So he speaks with a very big accent, right? So he says, "Hey, Duff, I got to tell you something." He says, "Now, I want to tell you something that my grandfather told me, a lesson." My grandma. So I'm sitting there, I'm about 12 years old, right? And I'm thinking, he's not talking about his father. He's talking about his grandfather. I mean, what does his grandfather, what could he possibly know about stickball in New Jersey? So, but, being raised with good parents and a good school system, I, listened to my adults, okay? So I said, "No, what did your grandfather tell you?" And he said, "If you make it a rules, you should win it a game. If you make it a rules, you should win it a game." And at the time I'm listening to it, I go, I don't get it. I'm thinking, his grandfather, he probably was, in my estimation, he was a spaghetti farmer in Italy, I had no idea. So I'm going, I don't get it, but I was nice to him. I said, "Oh, thank you very much, Went back, played the game. We lost. We were losing, and we lost pretty bad. So I wasn't happy. But after I left, I kept thinking about what he said. If you make it a rules, you should win in a game. And as I thought about it, I thought, there are rules. Baseball has pretty rigid rules because everything's the same. Every ballpark outside of the stands is the same. But in stickball, they're all different. Every street you got, come on, right? And I just thought, Now, we were playing a team in a couple of days, another team, and they were big right-handed hitters, big hitters. Now, from where our home plate is, everything to the left side, it was Mr. Polaro's garden, and then Mr. Harder's garden, and Mr. Harder's house. And we could just say, if you hit it in the garden, that's an out. If you hit it in his garden, it's an out. If you hit it up on a roof or his porch, it's an out. And all of a sudden, that's pretty good. So I really took it to heart, and we adjusted the rules depending on who we were playing. and we started doing much better. But the point of the message is that I told this story to a bunch of IT professionals in New York City at a meeting. And I told the story, and the moral of the story there was, and they all looked around like, yeah, it sounds funny. They smiled about it, But I said, look, every one of you, you have problems with your customers because you're late and you're overpriced. You're late and you're overpriced, overcost all the time. And guess what? They didn't say, come in at X number of dollars or get it done within 3 months. They said, how long is it going to take to do it and how much is it going to cost? At that point in time, you have an opportunity to make the rules. But you make the rules and you still lose the game. What are you doing, right? You have an opportunity to make the rules. They're not forcing you, they're asking you. You have to think about it that way. You have to say, what will be a price and a time frame that I can live with, that we can succeed. Now, it applies there, but it applies in lots of other places. And I'll tell you one more story. Our oldest daughter, Karen, was she was a nurse, and she graduated college, and she was a nurse, and she was a nurse at a hospital in Philadelphia. And she wanted to apply for another position at the hospital. And she was talking about it. So I asked her later on, I said, hey, did you ever apply for that position? She said, no, I haven't applied for it. I said, why not? She said, well, I looked at the job description and I don't fit the job description, you know? And I said, now, remember, if you make it a rules, you should win in a game. She said, but how am I gonna make the rules? That's a job description. It's written. I said, yeah. I worked in business at the time for a long time. I said, yeah, I know. That job description was probably written 20 years ago, and it was wrong when it was written, okay? And all the person did was saying, hey, I have to refill this job. Give me the job description so I can post it. I got the job description, they post it. They really don't take a good look at it. You've got an opportunity to say, that job description does not really fit what's needed in this job. You know, you're going to make the rules. Now, if the guy says, yeah, thanks, Karen, but I think we're going to leave it the way it is, what have you lost? You already said, I'm not going to get the job. You didn't even apply. But if you go in and tell them that story and say, here's what I think the job needs, and by the way, I think I can do it, what do you have to lose? So she thought about it for a couple of days and just jumped right in. She thought about it for a couple of days and finally said, I'm going to do it. She went in, gave that story to the boss. He hired her for the job. So in life, if you make it a rules, you should win it a game. A very important lesson from a little Italian guy. Okay, I hope that's been helpful. Take care.